you read in the newspapers, or you hear on the web that, of course, there will have been, people would have been prepared for this.
Behind the polished doors of palace meetings, a quiet clash is reportedly unfolding. Princess Anne, known for her unwavering loyalty to tradition, is said to have blocked Queen Camilla from attending key discussions surrounding Prince William's future coronation planning. The move has sparked whispers of tension, strategy, and shifting influence within the royal household. Courtiers tread carefully, observers speculate, and every gesture now feels loaded with meaning. So is this a firm stand to protect protocol, or a deeper power struggle brewing beneath the crown? A silent palace coup. The British royal family has always been built on tradition, control, and carefully managed appearances. Yet behind the polished smiles and glittering ceremonies, tensions have often simmered in silence. This time, however, something shifted in a way no one inside the palace seemed ready for. What should have been a smooth and united path toward William's future reign quietly turned into a chess game of power, loyalty, and exclusion. Princess Anne, long respected for her no-nonsense approach to duty, made a move that stunned even seasoned palace insiders. Instead of supporting the usual inclusive process, she chose to shut a door that many assumed would remain open. Queen Camilla, who had grown into her role over the years, suddenly found herself pushed to the sidelines. She was not part of key conversations about the next crown, not invited to strategy meetings, and not included in critical planning discussions. It wasn't a small oversight, it was a deliberate removal. Palace aides whispered that important emails, briefing notes, and confidential documents had been circulating for weeks, yet Camilla's name was missing from every single one. The process was executed with icy precision. William's close team followed Anne's lead without hesitation.
And I felt, you're losing people every single time you have those headlines. We all get that there's a really big urgent message, and I'm not...
Keeping everything within a tightly controlled inner circle that answered directly to them. To outsiders, it looked seamless. To Camilla, it felt like a quiet betrayal. According to sources inside Clarence's house, the Queen Consort only discovered her exclusion by chance. A member of her own staff questioned why she had not received a particular planning memo. The realization hit her hard. In that moment, she reportedly felt not just ignored, but rejected by the very institution she had worked so hard to be accepted into. Publicly, she remained composed, but within the palace walls, the meaning was impossible to miss. This was not forgetfulness. It was a clear message. Some royal observers believe Anne acted out of loyalty to William, wanting to shield him from potential complications or internal drama. Others see something far more personal. To them, this wasn't just about protecting the future king. It was about control, legacy, and who truly holds influence within the monarchy. Was Anne asserting her dominance, or was she quietly reshaping the power structure in ways the public has yet to fully understand? As news of the situation spread, speculation exploded. Had Camilla become too visible, too vocal, or too powerful in her own right? Had Anne grown tired of her rising influence? Or was this a sign that the royal family was moving away from quiet diplomacy?
And it's a huge advantage if you have somebody who can be recognized as that, and not just in your country, but...
And toward more aggressive, behind-the-scenes power plays? Whatever the reason, one thing was clear: the balance inside the palace had changed. By shutting Camilla out, Anne may have opened a door to a new kind of royal conflict, one driven not by ceremony, but by deep-rooted rivalry and control. The glittering image of unity was cracking, revealing something far more complex beneath the surface. As murmurs of betrayal echo across Buckingham Palace, one can't help but wonder what truly unfolded behind those gilded walls to spark such a dramatic clash. Let's reveal the details. Anne's silent stand, hierarchy over Camilla. This conflict did not appear overnight. Beneath Buckingham Palace's polished facade, a quiet tension had been building for years, gradually hardening into something far more serious. Princess Anne's unease with Camilla was never loud, but it was steady, persistent, and deeply rooted. What has now erupted feels less like a sudden clash, and more like the inevitable breaking point of a long-simmering feud. The question echoing through the palace is simple, yet unsettling. Why now, and what hidden history finally pushed Anne to act? Anne has always stood apart within the royal family. Respected as the monarchy's backbone, she is a figure of discipline, tradition, and unwavering duty. Unlike others drawn to the spotlight, Anne built her reputation through quiet service rather than public spectacle. She rarely seeks attention, yet when she acts, people listen. Beneath her calm exterior lies a sharp mind and a deep commitment to the principles she believes the monarchy should uphold. That commitment has shaped her perspective for decades, especially regarding Camilla. From the start,
We actually tried to keep quiet about reaching 3/4 of a century.
Anne's relationship with Camilla has been cool, distant, and carefully controlled. When Charles and Camilla rekindled their relationship publicly, and later as Camilla rose to queen consort, Anne never fully embraced the shift. While others made visible efforts to show unity, Anne remained reserved. There were no warm gestures, no joint initiatives, no signs of personal closeness. To outsiders, this might have looked like indifference, but it ran far deeper than that. Anne's stance was not about jealousy or dislike. It was rooted in her strict belief in duty, hierarchy, and earned authority. She values service over popularity and tradition over modern image-making. To her, Camilla's rise, through marriage, media rehabilitation, and public relations, never felt fully earned. Anne has always believed the crown should reflect years of sacrifice and responsibility, not carefully managed image shifts. A palace insider recalled a telling moment at Balmoral. In a private conversation, Anne reportedly remarked, "Some wear the crown for duty, others wear it for show." Though Camilla was not named, the meaning was unmistakable. The silent judgment deepened after Charles became king, and Camilla's influence grew. Camilla grew more confident.
Secondly, because my husband and I are lucky enough to spend precious time each year in Aberdeenshire.
Taking stronger roles in protocol decisions, engaging more actively in official events, and subtly reshaping her position in royal traditions. To Anne, this felt like overreach. Behind closed doors, tensions flared during at least 2 major state occasions. On one, Anne intervened when Camilla attempted to take the lead in ceremonial proceedings. On another, during a diplomatic reception, Anne reportedly redirected a conversation mid-discussion with a foreign envoy. It was not rivalry. It was about boundaries and control. Privately, Anne began voicing concerns to Prince William. She warned him that Camilla's assertiveness risked upsetting the delicate balance of power in the monarchy. To Anne, this was structural, not personal. She feared Camilla's influence could blur lines between symbolic support and real authority, potentially undermining the institution's future. These private conversations are now believed to have influenced Camilla's reported exclusion from certain coronation planning discussions. Anne's actions were precise, quiet, and calculated, aimed at protecting the monarchy rather than attacking an individual. She positioned herself as guardian of the throne, safeguarding it for the next generation. As William prepared to step fully into his future role amid growing public scrutiny and internal tensions, Anne chose to act, not with confrontation, but with subtle, strategic resistance. Yet, what Anne feared may already have been unfolding. Just weeks ago, a confidential meeting between William and Camilla reportedly turned tense, setting the stage for an even deeper rift. Was this moment the final fracture in a fragile royal alliance, or merely the beginning to Q5, much larger struggle over power, loyalty, and control? Keep watching to find out. William's bold move against Camilla. Tensions within the royal family had been simmering for months, but few could have predicted how sharply they would surface. Behind the polished exterior and ceremonial smiles, William and Camilla's relationship had grown increasingly strained. It wasn't just personal differences. It had begun to touch matters of authority, protocol, and the future of the monarchy itself. The breaking point arrived during a private meeting at Clarence House, a conversation meant to clarify boundaries, but which quickly turned into a clash of wills. William, always measured in public, spoke with unusual firmness behind closed doors. He had watched Camilla gradually step into roles and spaces traditionally reserved for the reigning monarch, inserting herself into ceremonial moments that he felt should belong to him as the future king. Her presence, once accepted, was starting to feel intrusive.
It is the most vulnerable, those with the fewest resources, and those who have done the least to cause climate change.
This was no longer a family dispute. It was, in his eyes, a matter that could influence the structure of the monarchy. During the sit-down, William addressed her calmly but decisively. He explained that with coronation planning now underway, he needed room to define his reign and lead without shadows from the past. He requested that she step back from key preparatory meetings, especially those involving symbolic and ceremonial decisions. He framed it not as criticism, but as a plea for space to shape a crown that would be his alone. Camilla, however, did not react with the deference William might have expected. According to insiders, she smiled with a mix of amusement and sharpness and replied, "It's all symbolic tradition, darling, nothing more." Her words were not merely casual, they were a subtle challenge, a dismissal of the seriousness William tried to convey. It was a refusal to acknowledge that the crown he would one day inherit was no longer hers to influence. William's reply was uncharacteristically sharp. "This is not your crown to shape," he said. The room went silent. There was no shouting, only a pause heavy with unspoken tension. Then Camilla quietly departed. The moment was brief, but its impact reverberated through the palace. William had made his decision. The very next day he met privately with Princess Anne. The conversation with Camilla had crystallized everything. This was no longer about personal feelings. It was about control, perception, and legacy.
You don't want to be scared too much, but it's that sort of frisson, isn't there? Of just being a little bit frightened.
To understand the depth of the strain, one must consider the long history between them. Camilla's alleged influence during William and Kate's 2007 breakup remains a whispered point of contention. Reports suggest she may have questioned Kate's readiness for royal life due to her non-aristocratic background. While nothing was ever officially confirmed, the episode marked an early sign that her opinions could clash with William's instincts, even regarding matters closest to his heart. Beyond personal history, Camilla's growing concerns about William's rising authority created another layer of tension. As William assumed more responsibility, some sources say she worried he was moving too fast, threatening the balance of power. She reportedly advised King Charles to temper William's influence, positioning herself as a guardian of tradition, while William advanced his vision for the monarchy's future. Finally, the dynamic between William and Camilla, as step-grandmother and stepfather figure, added emotional distance. He has drawn a careful line, keeping her roles separate from the lives of George, Charlotte, and Louis. It was a quiet, firm boundary, a reflection of respect, but also of control. Taken together, these moments reveal a deeply intricate relationship shaped by personal history, subtle power struggles, and differing ideas about what the monarchy should look like in the years ahead. As the tension reached its peak, a pressing question hung in the air. How would Camilla react to being sidelined at such a critical moment? Let's uncover the bold moves she might take to reclaim influence in the palace's intricate web of power. Catherine's quiet rise in the palace. With Princess Anne's full support, a quiet but decisive decision was made. Camilla would be excluded from all further coronation planning, but she wasn't told, at least not immediately. Every change was strategic. Agendas were adjusted, guest lists quietly revised, and key meetings went on without her. The palace, a fortress of unspoken rules, adapted with chilling precision. It wasn't rebellion, it was realignment. William had drawn the line, and Anne had fortified it. Camilla, however, was unprepared for the move. When she discovered her exclusion, the reaction was explosive. Sources claim she erupted, shouting, "I am queen inside Clarence House." Her fury wasn't just about pride, it was about power, legacy, and the fear of being erased. The news didn't come through formal channels, it arrived by accident.
Charge about. It was all very sort of laid back and happy, and we used to go off.
A small note on a staff calendar listed a coronation planning meeting at Kensington Palace. Her name wasn't included. Initially, her team assumed it was an oversight, but silence from William's circle made the truth undeniable. She had been deliberately left out. Panic rippled through her inner circle. Advisors urged restraint, caution, and discretion, but diplomacy could not contain Camilla's outrage. This wasn't merely a missed meeting. It was a signal that her voice no longer carried weight where it mattered most. She reportedly stormed into a private room where Charles was reviewing state briefings. Behind closed doors, she reportedly cried out, "They cannot treat me like a guest." Charles, caught between his roles as devoted husband and reigning monarch, offered no intervention. His silence spoke volumes. In that moment, Camilla realized the loyalty of Clarence House now leaned toward William. The realization was a bitter shock. For years, Camilla had carefully built her influence, blending public charm with private strategy. Now the walls that once sheltered her had shifted. She was standing alone, but retreat was not an option. Behind closed doors, she began mobilizing her team. What had started as damage control transformed into retaliation. Plans for exclusive interviews, subtle leaks, and carefully timed public appearances were floated. Each move aimed not to expose fractures, but to reclaim relevance. Yet, the reality was stark. William's coronation plans were already progressing without her. The circle had closed, alliances were formed, decisions made, and the narrative was being rewritten without her consent. Meanwhile, Catherine, Princess of Wales, quietly stepped into the space Camilla once occupied. Without demanding attention, she earned influence through steady, precise action. She contributed ideas that shaped the tone of the coronation, from integrating youth voices into the procession to blending a tribute to Queen Elizabeth II with a forward-looking vision. Her presence was subtle but undeniable. Staff described her as deliberate, reflective, and entirely in sync with William. Where he projected strength, she provided stability. Unlike Camilla, whose visibility had increasingly invited scrutiny, Catherine's influence was earned quietly and consistently. The public noticed. They responded not to titles or lineage, but to authenticity. Catherine became the embodiment of trust, a figure who balanced duty with approachability, elegance with relatability.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you very much.
She never sought to displace anyone. She simply reflected the monarchy's future while honoring its past. In these subtle shifts behind the palace gates, one thing became clear. The future queen wasn't waiting to be crowned. She was already acting like one. But Camilla's battle was far from finished. As Catherine's influence quietly expanded, Camilla's sidelining had intensified palace tensions to a breaking point. Would King Charles quietly intervene to mend the rift, or let the divide deepen unchecked? Let's uncover how he navigates this delicate balancing act without openly taking sides. Charles calls Anne to Windsor. In a quiet corner of Windsor, King Charles summoned Princess Anne for a meeting that insiders describe as tense, hushed, and deeply personal. The conversation began with civility, but beneath the polite words lay immense weight. Charles, facing pressure from Camilla, aimed to regain control. His mission was clear: undo the quiet yet decisive move Anne had made in excluding Camilla from William's coronation planning. To Camilla, this was an unforgivable slight. To Charles, it threatened the delicate web of family loyalty he had long labored to maintain. Anne, however, did not come to Windsor to change her stance. She arrived as she always had, a protector of the crown. Charles, speaking as a husband as much as a king, argued that Camilla had earned her place. "She is my wife," he reportedly said, his voice carrying both sorrow and insistence. It was a plea for understanding, a personal appeal for Anne's support, but Anne's reply was unmoving. "He is our future," she said simply. That one line ended the discussion. It reminded Charles that monarchy is about succession, not sentiment, and that the institution is meant to endure beyond personal loyalties. For Charles, the realization was bitter. Camilla, once a source of comfort and alliance, had become a fault line within his own family. The silence that followed was heavy, the kind that speaks louder than any argument. Anne remained a sentinel, unyielding, resolute, and utterly unapologetic. When the meeting ended, she left with a nod, leaving no room for negotiation or reconciliation. The illusion of harmony behind palace walls had shattered. Immediately, a carefully crafted statement emerged from the palace. On the surface, it was calm, neutral, and polished, but every omission screamed volumes. Released quietly on official channels, the statement referenced the ongoing coordination among senior royals in support of the Prince of Wales. No names, no details, and most notably, no mention of Queen Camilla. In royal language, omission carries weight.
I remember something that had been lurking in the back of my brain for a very long time.
Camilla's absence confirmed her formal sidelining, and the palace would offer no explanation. Inside, the atmosphere was tense. Staffers were briefed to deny knowledge of meetings, avoid media engagement, and refrain from using Camilla's name in any coronation context. Every measure was calculated to contain fallout, control optics, and protect the narrative of unity. Yet cracks were visible, and whispers of betrayal rippled behind closed doors. Camilla's team, blindsided again, reportedly felt furious and humiliated. To be erased in plain sight was more than exclusion. It was invisibility. And in a monarchy where perception equals influence, invisibility is effectively exile. Journalists and royal commentators quickly took notice. Questions arose about the future balance of power. Was Camilla's position now purely symbolic? Was William quietly asserting authority behind the scenes? Or had Anne's influence grown so much that even the crown's language mirrored her determination? Speculation spread like wildfire, not just in Britain, but across the globe. The public, previously indifferent, leaned in with fascination. This was no tabloid scandal. It was a calculated power struggle, a quiet war unfolding in plain view, where every word, and every missing word, carried consequence. But even as the palace worked behind the scenes to smooth over the crack, a shocking leak from within exposed the full depth of the divide. A confidential letter, never meant for public eyes, had surfaced. What secrets did it hold? And could its revelations ignite a confrontation that the royal household was desperate to avoid? Stay glued. Anne's letter that reshaped Camilla's role. In an astonishing twist, a letter written by Princess Anne came to light, intended for no one but her brother, King Charles. It was never meant for public eyes, yet the content struck at the very heart of the monarchy. Weeks before Camilla was officially sidelined from William's coronation planning, Anne had put pen to paper in an uncharacteristically emotional appeal. Unlike her usual measured tone, this letter revealed raw concern and urgent warning. Anne wrote not from rivalry or resentment, but from a deep sense of duty. She described a monarchy in peril, drifting away from its foundations. Tradition, she argued, was a weight borne not only by those currently on the throne, but by the generations that would follow. Without careful stewardship, she warned, the institution risked becoming a pageant of contradiction, where appearances overshadowed responsibility. Though she never named Camilla directly, the message was unmistakable. Anne outlined the danger of allowing personal relationships to blur the line between private influence and public duty. She stressed that perception mattered as much as protocol, and that the erosion of trust could threaten the very essence of the crown. In her words, William stood as the last spine of tradition with vision, a phrase heavy with meaning. It was both an affirmation of faith in her nephew and a stark statement that the monarchy's survival now hinged on his judgment. Anne's appeal to Charles was both firm and urgent. She wrote not as a sister, but as a guardian of the monarchy, urging him to exercise restraint for the greater good of the crown. She acknowledged the personal cost this might inflict, the strain on relationships, the discomfort of exclusion, but she made one principle clear: the preservation of legacy must come before comfort. Every carefully chosen word underscored her belief that order and duty must outweigh personal sentiment. The leak of the letter, whether a calculated move from within the palace or a desperate slip from someone seeking to influence public opinion, sent shockwaves immediately. Senior royals were not shocked by Anne's sentiments. Many had suspected them, but by the timing, precision, and unflinching honesty of her message.
Remembering their bravery, courage,
and sacrifice.
Stripped of the usual royal polish, the words landed like thunder. Suddenly, the focus shifted. This was no longer simply about Camilla being excluded, it was about who had spoken and why. Within the palace, Anne's reputation quietly transformed. Often underestimated because of her calm demeanor and silent presence, she emerged as the moral compass of the institution. Privately, allies rallied behind her. Though few could voice their support publicly, her letter conveyed everything that needed to be said. It reframed the narrative, presenting the decision to sideline Camilla not as a personal attack, but as a strategic move to preserve clarity, stability, and tradition. In just a few pages, Anne reasserted the monarchy's priorities: order over optics, clarity over chaos, duty over personal comfort. The message resonated deeply with those who understood the stakes. It was a subtle yet powerful signal that the monarchy's future would be shaped not by personal ambition, but by deliberate, principled stewardship. And now, as the dust slowly settles and the palace corridors echo with quiet recalibration, one unsettling truth emerges. Camilla's role in the next chapter may not simply be diminished, it could be rewritten entirely. Will she fade into ceremonial shadow? Or is there a move yet unseen that could reshape her destiny within the monarchy? There's more to uncover. From influence to ceremonial observer, it may finally be over. The royal family, of course, is no stranger to scandal, but this fracture was different. This time, the disruption did not come from the tabloids, outsiders, or public opinion. It came from within. In the aftermath of the clash between Anne and Camilla, the palace has quietly shifted, signaling the start of a new era, one defined by William and Catherine. What had once been speculation whispered behind gilded doors has now become an undeniable truth.
Chatty, so always ask actually unusual questions often.
William's coronation, once assumed to be a simple continuation of centuries-old tradition, has taken on a far more symbolic weight. It is no longer just the ascension of a monarch. It is the rebirth of a vision long thought lost, a vision of discipline, earned respect, and measured service. Every step of the process has been carefully choreographed to reflect a monarchy that values substance over spectacle. Camilla, once poised to influence the visual and ceremonial narrative of the new reign, has been quietly moved to the periphery. Those closest to the coronation preparations reveal that her role is now largely ceremonial. She will walk, smile, wave, but she will not shape decisions or strategy. Power, in this new configuration, has shifted quietly but decisively. Anne remains at William's side, not for public display, but as the steadfast guide behind the throne. Her influence is subtle, yet profound. She shapes decisions, maintains the structure of the monarchy, and ensures that the crown's legacy is honored. Where distraction and ambition once threatened, Anne provides clarity and a steady hand. She is no ruler, but a guardian of principle, safeguarding the institution with an unwavering eye on duty over decorum. Then there is Catherine. Once admired quietly from the wings, she has stepped forward into a new prominence. Her movements are deliberate, her presence purposeful. In boardrooms, planning sessions, and public appearances, her voice now carries weight. Together, William and Catherine, guided by Anne's counsel, have restored what many feared was lost, a monarchy that understands both its limitations and its responsibilities. The public response has been striking. Trust in the institution, shaken over years of controversy, has surged. Approval ratings have risen not because of grand speeches or flashy campaigns, but because of what people see: conviction without noise, unity without arrogance. The monarchy now feels less like an artifact of the past and more like a guiding compass for the present. This transformation did not come from press releases or carefully crafted PR strategies. It came from deliberate choices: clarity over confusion, courage over comfort. The royal firm, once rigid in tradition and hierarchy, now moves with renewed purpose, led by those who have proven themselves through service, judgment, and restraint. not merely by inheritance. This was never about sidelining Camilla for power alone.
May thy servant Camilla, who wears this crown, be filled by thine abundant grace.
It was about protecting the crown, preserving the integrity of the institution, and ensuring its survival with relevance. Anne, William, and Catherine have not merely maintained the monarchy, they have redefined it. Tradition remains sacred, but survival now demands change. And this time, that change did not come from the outside, it came from within. The era of whispers has ended. A new chapter has begun, and the future of the monarchy will be written by those who understand that the crown is not just worn, it is earned, protected, and reimagined. So what do you think? Will these royal grudges ever truly fade, or are they here to stay? We would love to hear your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe.